that last debate episode was. I feel like I should definitely acknowledge that it was all in good fun, and George and I don't have any like animosity towards each other.
I don't think you guys came off that way though.
No, but it was like, oh, would you rather have 4 fingers or 6? And then it's like, hey, what do you think of how much do you value life? How much do you really think people's life are worth? So it really came off a little egregious.
Hello, beautiful people.
Welcome to Bro Taste This.
When we break down wine, we talk about Luis's digestive issues and Juan's political issues. And I'm a great listener.
Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon. Thank you for joining us on another episode of Bro Taste This, where we break down wine, food, news, and our childhood trauma. I am Luis Pablo, joined by Juan Legend, Jay motherfucking May, and today we have a special guest. He was mentioned in the very first episode of this podcast, so if you go back and listen to the horrible audio that we posted, Anthony Garcia is in the room with us.
Wah, wah, wah. Right here.
Wah, wah, wah. We might have to get the air horns a little bit closer now. Yeah, let's screw this back. There we go. Beautiful.
Damn millennials.
Damn millennials.
They're doing it anymore.
Yeah, we want to make sure everybody knows our opinion about everything, which is why everybody should have their own podcast. This week we'll be talking about Wisconsin approving child labor, and then we'll just get right into the Sommelier that's with us here, Anthony Garcia. So, Anthony, do you want to just say who you are, where you're from?
I'm Anthony Garcia.
That is
I
correct.
was born in California, but then raised 10 years in Mexico, and then moved to the United States, flipped a coin on that decision, and landed on heads. So we moved up here, and have been living here since. Lived in Chicago for a little bit, saw some pretty cool things, some bad things, a lot of culture shock. I moved up here without knowing any English, and lived in a pretty rough neighborhood of Chicago, where African Americans and like Mexicans never get along because lack of resources. They were just
Jeez.
trying to just fight for it, and there was only one white kid in my school back then, but then my mom just got fed up with like hearing gunshots in the middle of the night. So yeah, we moved up to Wisconsin, lived in Elkhorn first, and then moved to Lake Geneva for a little bit, moved around Chicago, and then I'm here.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you so much for coming by. Obviously, it's much appreciated. It was, what, a 2-hour drive?
Shy of 2 hours, yeah.
You're up in the beautiful Sheboygan town.
Sheboygan area. I worked for Kohler, Wisconsin. You know, you go to the bathroom, it says Kohler. They make them there. I live in Plymouth, and love it. I have shy of 2 acres. My 2 little girls just run around endlessly. Don't have to worry about traffic like I did in Chicago when I lived there. So yeah, it's a good move.
Yeah, I was gonna say you definitely get congratulations for having 2 kids.
Yeah.
5 and 2, 4 and 1. You said.
Yeah.
So no, man. Thank you so much for coming. It's greatly appreciated.
Yeah. On the record, they're not Asian.
No. Do you get told you're Asian a lot?
Yeah, but funny thing is that like Asian people know I'm not Asian. It's the people that are kind of like borderline, like Hmong or Filipinos. They're like,
Yeah.
you're definitely Asian, or you're one of me, or in the restaurant it's so funny, and it's like borderline like being stereotyped and racism, because people will say,
I
Hey.
fucking hate when people do that.
yeah, they're like, hey, can you tell the Asian Som that we're ready to for a wine
they
order?
say that?
And then the server comes to me, I'm like looking around like,
Yeah.
which one? Like there's none.
Yeah.
Like, oh me?
You're talking
Got
about
it.
me?
Got it.
That is really funny.
Yeah, I mean, I do know a little Mandarin, so like ni hao ma, or ni hao if I need to, but no.
I know one Asian phrase, and it's "nani," which I've only gotten from anime. So it really,
That's all you need, man.
Yeah, it really has not helped me whatsoever.
That's actually one of my deepest fears, is that one day I have kids and it just comes out like black. I don't know, something ridiculous that I'm not.
What do you? I mean,
not
it
your
could-
kid, is that
yeah,
what- yeah.
I think everybody has a fear.
Male fear.
Right, just like, man, is this kid mine? Like, I really had to house this bitch for 9 months, and now this kiddo's not mine.
Or
Or he looks like you and he ends up not being yours.
Yeah, that would be kind of scary. Let's talk about the wine that Anthony has provided for us. It is a. Do you want to take it away?
Yeah, I'd love to. This is one of my favorite producers from Napa Valley.
Okay. Had some technical difficulties behind the scenes, but back to this beautiful wine made on Powell Lake.
Close enough.
Howell Lake?
How Mountain.
Howell Mountain.
There's a
There
lake
we
up
go.
there still.
Wrong land feature.
I don't think it has evaporated
Random land feature.
yet. So yeah, Napa Valley. Be thinking like a small place in the world, but it's pretty tiny. And then within Napa, they're breaking into smaller places, and then they have categorized different terroirs. This one's coming from Howell Mountain. Once again, Randy Dunn, 2012. Everybody raves about 2013, and it's pretty expensive nowadays. But if I had to put like my money on wine, I'd look for like good years, not like always top years, because those are the most expensive ones.
Yeah.
And that's what separates like the kids from the adults, right? Like you want the years where people struggle so much, and I want to see them like, what can you do with this shitty fruit? Like, what can you make out of it?
Interesting.
And 2012 was like a good year, not like the best like 2013, and you're not paying as much either. So yeah.
So what would we have right here? A 2012. How much does a bottle of this go for?
Retail, maybe
retail.
170. I bought this for like 140-ish. So as you can
Jesus.
tell, like appreciation in wine is really a thing. So just forget Bitcoin, forget Dogecoin.
Invest in wine.
Invest in wine. No, I'm joking. But
Jesus.
you really got to know what you're buying if you're gonna invest into wine. But
Yeah, no, obviously. That is insane.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for bringing this in.
Yeah.
I'm going to taste it now. I don't think I'm worthy. Cheers.
cheers.
Cheers, everyone.
Cheers. Air cheers from out here. Wow. So immediately what I note is very acidic, a lot of tannins. A lot of tannins.
Yeah, it's like silk, though.
I'm happy you said acidic right away, because when the wine gets to like higher than 14%, it's all about like the fruit, the tannins, and no
Yeah.
one talks about acidity when it comes to cabs. Once again, like the word acidity, people think of like battery acid, but it's such a beautiful
No.
thing.
No.
Think of like with tacos, like you put a little bit of lime and it just makes everything brighter.
Oh my
pop.
gosh, yeah. You put a little bit of lime on like fruit, which is like acidic, and it makes it sweeter.
Right.
You know, and
Right.
so with this, when I get the tannins in there and I get the acidity, it's not in a bad way. It feels like, whereas some of the other wine that I've tasted feels like you're drinking wine, this feels like you're drinking juice. Like in terms of texture, it feels a lot thicker. It feels almost like a heavier water. You know, like if you have Voss water, it has silica, and it kind of keeps your mouth wet after you drink it. This has that same feeling.
Yeah, and it's like one of these wines that you can drink them at any time. Like usually when you drink cabs, you're like, I gotta have a steak. I gotta have something big, bold, and like mashed potatoes.
No.
Just think of everything Wisconsin. But this one, like you can take it out anywhere.
Yeah.
If anything, I think it's like more towards like Mexican and like Chinese food, like a little bit of spice. I'll gotta mention one thing about Randy Dunn. He's like one of the OGs of Napa Valley, making wines beautifully without being too show off. He worked for Camus, and Camus owns Mayomi, Bella Gloss, Elouan, and like all these like fruit bomb wines. And that's one of the reasons why he quit that place, because he was seeing this trend of people moving into bolder wines to appease like the wine critics of the world, like Robert Parker, Wine Spectator, which is another topic too, because it's a double-edged sword when you're trying to go for higher points by these reviewers making wines to their taste buds,
Yeah.
just so you can make a quick buck or two. But then you forget like the truth of what is wine. Like you want the grape to be its own thing. The winemaker should just be picking it and just giving it some love and then calling it a day, not fabricating like high point scoring wines to appease them.
Yeah, and we'll definitely talk more about some of that point stuff once we get into a main topic. But
I mean, while we're on this topic, though, could you elaborate what makes Napa Valley like so special compared to other regions of the United States? And because it seems to be like the crown jewel of American wines, like it happens to be like the one region that has the most media hype going on, and
for sure.
definitely gets talked about the most.
Yeah, so before Napa Valley was a thing, like everybody thought of like Bordeaux, Burgundy wines, like they were the top stuff in the world, the most expensive stuff in the world, and no one could beat them. But then this is leading up to a competition, and other things happened, but this is kind of pretty much one of the things that kind of started the snowball effect of Napa Valley being taken seriously. The French wines, people who own French wineries, domain chateaus, they saw us as like a bunch of hillbillies just making bootleg and just moonshine in Napa.
Like out here in California, in the United States in general?
In the United States in general, they're like, they don't know what they're doing. The temperatures are too hot.
What are these fucking Americans doing?
Always messing up things. And you know what? It's part of the freedom, right? Like, of like having like no fucks, right?
Yeah.
Like, you can do whatever you want with winemaking. Like, I want to oak bomb this thing. I want to make this riper. And people were just like, what are they doing? Like, and then
it was a little eccentric for their taste, it sounds like.
Right. And then the moment that sealed the day was this thing called the Judgment of Paris, where we competed against the French wines, and we won both categories, white and red. It was all done in blind tasting. Some of these blind tasters who rated the wines were French.
And what was this event called again?
The Judgment of Paris.
The Judgment of Paris.
Sounds like a really cool battle.
Yeah, gladiator swords, sabering,
a final French Revolution battle.
Yeah, George Washington was there.
Napoleon, yeah.
He's like, I'm not that short.
But then we won, and
that's really impressive. By blind tasting.
By blind tasting, right? That's a different topic too. Like, what is blind tasting? Like, I tell you, like, hey, tell me what's in this wine, but it's all perspective. It's all what you think, what you know. It's all about your past history, your memories. What does it trigger? But if you don't expose yourself to like different things, then it's kind of hard to talk about a wine, right? So, but back to like this tasting, the Judgment of Paris, like it put us on this like pedestal of like, this is the best, and then everybody wanted to make the same wine, the same style as those first placers, right? And that is what we have still today. People still want to make it that way. Overly oaky, buttery, big expressive, big punch in the face kind of style of wines, and you're starting to see a shift today where people want more of that, like, just give me the grapes, don't mess with it too much, man. Just do it kind of semi-natural, and people are gonna think of like natural wines, but not that kind of natural. I don't want too much funk.
Like a little bit more traditional techniques,
more traditional
tastes,
right? Right.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's really fascinating.
It's cool that California is getting less eccentric for once.
Well, that's really interesting to find out, because you hear all this talk about Napa Valley, and then you get pretentious people who come into restaurants that we work at, and they're like, "Oh, this isn't Napa Valley," and you're like, "What the fuck do you know, Candace?" Like, really? Like, you took one wine tasting class and suddenly you're a sommelier? Like,
and they probably took that wine tasting class in Gatlinburg, Tennessee.
Yeah, exactly. In Richmond, Illinois, and they're like, no, I know what I'm talking about. What do you mean you don't have fucking Kendall Jackson?
It's like, no, we do not have muscadine.
We're gonna talk about a news topic that came out really quickly, and then we're gonna get right back into wine topic. Wisconsin approved a bill on Wednesday that would allow 14 and 15-year-olds to work until 11 p.m. on Sundays, much later than laws currently allow. The proposed bill would allow this group instead work from 6 a.m. to 9:30 p.m. on days before school day, and 6 a.m. to 11 p.m. when there isn't school the next day. Just want to go around the room and see what you guys thought about this, especially your experiences working in high school. We can start with Juan Legend across the room.
As I was reading about the story, I also read that they were the Wisconsin legislature was also keeping in place essentially regulations that kept it legal to pay workers under 20 as little as $4.25 an hour for 90 days of training.
Yeah.
And that they could essentially, like, they're thinking about knocking away that 90 days of training and keeping it like $4.25, almost unlimited. But yeah, so that was just like a little thing we've been talking about, labor law,
Yeah,
on
it's just an
changes in
ongoing
the job market right now and how that affects workers and things like that. So it just kind of seems to be like that they're chipping away at child labor laws rather than like
rather than
increasing
paying people what they should.
Yeah, rather than increasing like benefits packages and things like that. It seems like they're trying to use other levers to get bodies in the system, which is interesting.
Jay, you got any comments you want to add?
Yeah, honestly, I thought that was a suggestion.
You thought it was
It's like, I mean, I've worked in many places, and those kids staying there till the work's done.
Yeah.
Yeah, right?
It's just
Yeah,
I thought it was
that's
just like, I
true
think
as well.
No, it's
Yeah.
it's actually passing through, yeah.
'Cause, like,
which
how
is
mu-
crazy to think about.
How many of these restaurants don't follow the labor laws that are already
Yeah.
on there, and they're loosening them even more?
Right.
Yeah, like how many places keep those 15-year-olds there till
Right. And a
you get-
15, 14-year-old is going to abide by the law because they're scared of authority at that age. And, their parents are probably like, you can fucking stay, go make some money. And, it's an easier way for them to focus on making money as opposed to taking education a little bit more seriously.
Good for them. Someone's
Yeah.
there at work.
Yeah. Fuck. I mean, when I was a busser when I was 16, I would stay till the work is done.
Yeah.
Like, no one said legally you should leave or anything. I mean, people were like, you probably shouldn't be here this late because you guys go the next day.
Let's be honest, the assistant manager generally does not know about like the regulations of when he should be keeping around his 14-year-old. So
Right.
most
Yeah.
of the time, he's not that up to date on.
Most of the time,
that sort
they're
of thing.
freshly out of high school,
Yeah, like-
or have
Or
just a high school
youngish,
degree
or like an
themselves.
impressive server that, hey, you're a manager now. Like, I hope you know how to like manage liabilities
Right.
of a business.
And they're like, guess what? You're gonna have to stay and bust these tables because I'm gonna go hit on the underage servers. So it's usually what happens when you work in the restaurant industry. Anthony, you got any comments on this?
Yeah, I think it's kind of tough. I mean, it was 9 p.m., right? The old law or the old regulation. They had to leave by 9. Man, that's when it gets busy. Like,
That's when tables are first leaving,
Yeah.
especially with school the next day. Like a Thursday night is still busy.
And especially for the young roles, which are like bussers, dishwashers.
Yeah.
That's literally like the bulk of their work.
No,
Flipping the
100%.
room.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's when a lot of the work comes in, and yeah, it feels like instead of trying to pay people what they should, they're just now essentially coming down on the child labor laws and
Yeah.
having them work it. So it feels like a flaw in the system that this is happening, but at the end of the day, I mean,
And I was reading that a lot of like critics and people who studied child labor regulations have talked about that when they loosen regulations like this, it like is correlated to those kids' grades just plummeting and dropping, and their
it for
furthering
sure
of
is,
education,
yeah.
like those percentages just drop. So it's kind of like that kid is obviously going to work, but he's expanding his energy and stuff on something that's more of a short-term game rather than a long-term rest of his life game, which could be something
yeah.
like,
interesting.
yeah.
100%. Yeah, really interesting topic to talk about because it's been an ongoing issue that we've brought up many times. Other than that, wine, final thoughts. Definitely unworthy of drinking that, but I'm glad I did.
What fruits do you guys taste in here, though? What colors do you see?
Is there any left? Are we doing this top to bottom kind of thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, Anthony, give us a little bit of a...
Yeah, now that we're talking about the wine again, how
do you go about breaking down a wine when you're
okay.
sitting there?
So whoever's listening right now, they can just skip 5 minutes. This is about to get boring.
It's about to get really. This is for the
This
next
is for the wine nerds.
next couple
all
of
right?
minutes are going to be strictly for the wine nerds and for anybody who wants to learn about tasting wine and the things you got to look for. So Anthony, with that being said, take the room.
Yeah, so you start by looking at it, and then you go to smelling it and then tasting it, but you work top to bottom from your head, right? So you look at it, put it behind in front of a white background, see what it looks like. This one's like a black hole, just taking all the
it's
color and light
completely dark.
into it. And then just kind of move around the glass back and forth and see how like that stains the glass.
So don't actually swirl it, just move it back and
Just
forth.
move back and forth, right? You can swirl it if you want. Just don't be that person like swirling it on like gravel and like just making that chiseling noise like you're
Yeah.
making a sword or something.
That'd be fun in a studio.
So you look at it. This has nothing to do with like how great it is. People will spin it around a little bit, and then you see the legs.
Yeah.
That does not give you anything about the quality of the wine. It just tells you a little bit about the alcohol. If it's high alcohol, like the legs will be slow, like molasses. But this one kind of just drips really quick, so it's a low alcohol wine.
And for people who aren't familiar with like what legs are, because a lot of our followers are like pretty wine novice.
Yeah.
How would you describe what legs are to somebody who's not in the room with us?
So swirl the glass and then hold it up, and you'll see like this, like viscosity, almost like lines going down
From the edge of the glass.
Almost like tears.
almost like tears. So yeah, they're like tears. And the slower they are, the more alcohol the wine has. So get ready to party, pretty much. But it doesn't tell you anything about the quality of the wine.
Interesting.
A little bit of a pet peeve when people say like, "Oh man, these legs are slow and nice." Like nothing to do with the wine.
That's actually a load of bullshit.
It's just a lot of BS, a lot of old school.
Interesting.
No one has
Like wine lingo.
wine lingo, right?
That it's kinda left
woman,
over.
no woman or someone has slapped him in the face and tell him, "Man, that's not how you describe wine." And then you go to your nose, swirl it a little bit. One nose is better than the other, so go back and forth. Make sure you do this when you're in Thanksgiving and family is around, because they'll look at you like you're weird.
We're
You sound
all.
like you're speaking from experience.
Definitely.
Yeah, it sounds like it came from a personal place.
Yeah, I
Dude,
smell.
I can't imagine Mexican Thanksgiving. You know, the wine geek.
You got,
Miren a este.
you got the box wine and you're swirling it. You're like, no, I still gotta go through the motions.
It's like all army style. Gotta do it. No way, you can skip it.
Yeah, it's like doing your bed for all those military kids.
Yeah, and then you kind of just smell it. You start with the fruits and make sure you know like what kind of fruits, right? You can easy fruits for red wine. It's either red, blue, or black fruits, and then from there be specific on what kind of red fruits, like raspberry, cherries, and then for blue, blueberries, blackberry, plums, and then you can move on to other things like the nuttiness and the oak and the vanilla. There's some vanilla in this one. It's hard to pinpoint these things unless you continue to drink.
Yeah.
But I think the fruit is very important. I'm surprised I'm still doing wine, because I got haze like when I was doing my level 1. They go around the room, they pass a microphone, and I don't know if anybody knows this, but I'm an introvert for sure. Like going up,
Well, thank you for being on the podcast.
right? Trying to break through that mold.
Yeah.
But middle school, high school was rough because like not knowing English, like I was always self-conscious of like my accent.
Yeah.
So I would like, we would read a book and like we would read books
Oh,
in
yeah.
class.
God.
I'd be like, oh,
Reading out loud
I'd be
was.
like, oh fuck, what's
Dude,
my
it's
part?
Yeah.
Like,
Fucking
just-
nerve-wracking.
pre-reading like words that I might not know how to pronounce. Like, oh fuck, just reread them so I don't sound like an ass. And then they would skip me. They would skip that part or something. I'm like, crap, I have to reread a different sentence to make sure I don't say it wrong. And then, like, trauma, right? So I'm going through the level 1 quartermasters, and then they are passing the microphone around, asking like, hey, what do you guys taste? We're doing the whole grid, but like regiment grid, like top to bottom. And then I get the fruit section, and then I said, I get tropical fruits. And then the master saw I'm doing the class. He's like, okay, great. That's a good start. And then just hazes me. What kind of tropical fruits? And he just goes off ranting out like 20 plus tropical fruits. And like I was like, oh my god, like this is awful. Like this is how Sommelier is gonna be. I don't want to get yelled at by customers.
Yeah.
But here I am, like
Made it through that.
made it through that.
Yeah.
And then still getting yelled at, right?
Yeah. I guess for some, real quick, the funniest joke I've ever heard was a server that I used to work with got asked, hey, do you have a sommelier? And he responded by saying, I think we have that by the bottle. So for those who don't know what a sommelier is, you can definitely give us a better explanation. From my understanding, it is someone who's an expert on wine, correct?
Right. It dates back to someone who would take care of horses back in the day. Back what day? I don't know.
Just a while ago.
Just a while, like I think 10 years ago.
Damn.
But no, it has evolved over time into just being the curator of a wine list, taking care of wine, how to open it, properly open it, present it. And about 90% of that training kind of just goes out the window because people just know what they want. I open it and then I pour it and I leave the table.
Yeah.
But it's always nice to have that background and that knowledge. And that's why sommeliers are important, because it can push your average check pretty high. And there's different kinds of somms out there that we can get into too. Like you have your modern, your classic, the guy who's like wearing this like apron and it's got this little silver thing, and he pours your wine, tastes it, and he says to you, "It's okay to drink it." Like I am not about that. Like I will remove myself from the equation. Some people still do that, like in bigger cities like Florida, California, just to make sure you're drinking something okay. But I want you to enjoy it, so I'll pour you a sample. You taste it. You tell me, hey, it's good. Hey, it's bad. Take it home with you and drink it with your wife. I'm like, cool, awesome.
Yeah.
But I want people to really enjoy it, not me.
So you have them taste it.
I have them taste it. Right?
That's it. Yeah, okay.
Could you go a little bit into what is it that people should be looking for when a sommelier pours you that taste?
Yeah. So making sure, don't smell the cork, because people say the wine is corked. Well, you're smelling a cork, so there's gonna have like that smell of a corked wine, right? But if you see the cork and you see some streamlines through the sides, there might be signs of seepage. Seepage just means when there's wine going out or air coming in, that will start to deteriorate the wine from within. Another thing too you want to smell is like wet newspaper or like a wet dog. Like when the wine's poured in your glass and you smell that, it could be two things. It could be the wine is corked, or the glasses were polished. No one changed the water in the dishwasher, or they're using a dirty rag.
So that's like a third variable all together. Like it could just be the glass is all fucked up.
Yeah. And I've gotten times where people just don't like the wine, and I sometimes warn them like it's going to be funky. You ready for this funk? And they say, I don't like it, it's funky. I'm like, yeah, it's funky.
Yeah.
I told you.
Told you. And I don't want you to drink 24 ounces of something you don't like, so I'll take it back. I'll show it to the employees what it is and have them taste it. You guys know about that. And then,
we've been fortunate.
unfortunate. And yeah, so like no worries, like we'll take care of it. I don't want you to drink something you don't want either. So.
Yeah, very. As and all of us could probably attest to this. Very rare do a guest complain about the wine and then we think it's not an issue. Like when someone complains about the wine, it's almost always like, okay, I understand, and just no questions asked, we take the wine back. And like I would say 8 times out of 10 something is wrong with the wine, and then there's like 2 times where they're like they just don't like what they ordered.
Yeah, like trying to show off to their date, like, hey, guess what I can do?
Yeah, I ordered a Merlot or a Chianti, and you're like, you have no idea what you're talking about. So yeah, that's definitely something that if you get a wine and you don't like it, if you're trying to like experience wine and get into wine, you're like, oh, I've heard about Cabernets, and you order it and you don't like it, don't fucking drink it. Because what's the point? You're just ruining wine for yourself and for your guests, and
right.
You're paying for a glass that you're not going to enjoy.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So
100%.
Yeah, no. Jay, you got any questions for the young sommelier we have in the room before we start? Kind of, this is going to be all over the place, but I'll try to keep some sense to it.
Oh man, I have a ton.
Yeah,
let's start in the beginning, kind of like.
Yeah, that's what I also want to start.
What's the process of you becoming a sommelier, and what kind of made you want to do that?
Awesome, man. Make sure we come back to that first question, because I'm gonna answer the second one. Okay. It all started with like cooking. Like I grew up in Mexico. My grandma used to work for the state of Guerrero. Guerrero, don't fight, man. Don't fight over there, because they'll just hit you with machete. That's how they settle wars and like.
They fit the name.
Yeah, machete. Like
that Guerrero name really comes through.
Yeah. And she would take me to all these towns, because she worked for the state, to kind of help out like these small communities that don't have resources, barely have any like heat, and she would go and teach them how to like grow their crops better, how to make dolls out of nothing, just like the hair of hairs, and how to make estufas, stoves out of like mud, right? You make a whole like really, really hardcore. Like,
and this was her job, you said?
This was her job. And then as a gratitude, like all these people would like make us food, like authentic food, menudo, like tripas, pozole, and using everything from the animal, like chicken feet. and that's how I kind of just love that hospitality. Like that bit me so hard, and then it never really clicked until like I was in high school. So lived through that, and then cooking was like speaking to me a lot after high school. So to culinary, I applied to Grand Geneva, not once but twice. And
Yeah, because when I met you for the first time, you probably won't even remember this, but I was in high school, and you were actually working as a cook at what's now a different restaurant, but at the time it was Chicago Style Pizza.
yeah.
You were there as a line cook,
Yeah.
and I knew you because of my cousin worked with you, my cousin Jesus Cordova.
Ah, yes.
So that's when I first met you, and then we ended up meeting again at the Grand Geneva.
Yeah.
And then we worked together for a while there,
Yeah, I was like, who's this pretty boy right here? Yeah.
and it wasn't me; it was somebody else. No, but please continue.
Yeah, so I started cooking, started with pizzas, family owned, and then applied to Grand Geneva, and then landed a job as a chef de partie, just pretty much being like the left, right, whatever hand you want to call it, of the sous chef, just prepping, coming up with new ways to speed things up, look a little bit better. But it's kind of hard to make dishes look better when there's only 4 components. You have your sauce, protein, tomato cherry, and a leaf of some sort. But worked as a cook, love cooking, the smells, the restaurant. I just wanted to be in restaurants, but there was always like this disconnect with front and back of the house. I'm like, I got this. I'm gonna fix this. So I went back to school, went to hospitality school at UW-Stout, and I took a wine course twice. Not because I failed. And people were like, "Why are you taking it twice? Like, did you fail?" Like, no, I just want to get more out of it. And this professor was like one of the best things that's kind of happened in my life in the wine world, because he made something so easy to understand and digest as a 21-year-old, where everybody else just wants to get drunk and bar hop. And I'll be honest, like I started with Barefoot Moscato. Like that's where I started. Started from the bottom.
Yeah, we gotta be
Pink Moscato, shout out.
shout out Barefoot and all its great wines.
Yeah, started from the bottom. And
Yeah, you gotta be loyal to the wines that started you.
The more pale yellow, the better.
If that shit's pink, that's ready to drink.
Then I applied back to the Grand Geneva. I just like to suffer, you know. Shout out.
I like the trauma.
I like the trauma.
Trauma bonding.
Trauma bond. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna get back into the front of the house. Let's fix this stuff. And I did the internship for 5 months. And I was in the military at one point too. In that process.
Yeah, thank you for your service.
Yeah, anytime. And then I put my 2 weeks in before. So it was supposed to be a 5-month program, right? It became 9 months. And I was like, what are you guys going to do with me? Where are you going to put me? And there was like no answer. So I was like, I'm out. And they're like, well, you're still in training, in Army training. You're going to be back in 2 weeks. I'm like, these are my 2 weeks. Like, I'm not coming back.
This is my 2 weeks.
These are my 2 weeks. And then I came back. I had no job. I was like kind of cool with it, because it was just like revealing to like, I don't want to work somewhere where I don't enjoy working. Like I want to do something for myself. And that's when I applied the Geneva Inn to be the bar manager. And I just walked in, and Sutton was
Yeah,
there.
shout out to Sutton Doringsfeld,
What?
who hired
How an all-star crew.
3
Let's
out of
just
4
say
of us
that.
in the room.
Let's just say that.
And yeah, she's like, let's do this. Let's reopen this place. They invested money on it. And then she wanted me to take on the wine program with some guidance from a master of wine, Jessica Bell, who worked in Milwaukee for a while. She had her own schooling. She would teach people, and she would come down and kind of just guide me a little bit. And her guidance really helped me kind of build my first wine list from scratch. And once again, I started to get burnt out because I was doing more managerial stuff than anything bar related. And that was eating at me, and just like, I just want to do wine things. And so I decided to take my level 1, passed it, and then took some time off, and then decided to take my level 2, passed it eventually. And then from there, I just like committed to myself to be a sommelier. I told myself I want to be a sommelier in the big city. And that's when Megan moved, my wife, to Chicago. I'm like, I may finish up here in Geneva, and then I'll follow you. And then I went once again without a plan. I started applying everywhere, and eventually the James Hotel took a chance on me, on someone who was just a level 1 at that time.
Could you elaborate a little bit on that? Like how the leveling system works, like
Yeah.
all of its implications?
Yeah, so you can be wine. You can have a wine career in different ways. You can be a writer, a critic, work on the floors. You can teach. You can do multiple things with anything wine. It just depends what path you take. I took the quartermasters, and that's more service oriented towards like restaurants, and that's a path I took pretty strong. And then eventually I did the other one, but there's 4 levels to the quartermasters. Level 1 is just introductory. Level 2 is a certified, which I am at the moment. Level 3, it just gets harder 10 times fold. And then the 4th, it's like you might lose a little bit of yourself at that moment. Like you are.
It's like a PhD in wine.
It's a PhD in wine. People say like it's one of the hardest exams, like more than like becoming a neuroscientist. Like I wouldn't say that. Like, we're not saving lives.
You're just professional alcoholics.
Right. And then I just said to myself, I want to be a som. Let's do the som thing. And then that's how my path kind of just evolved. And then I did work at the American Club at one point. Sorry, I'm jumping around a little bit. As an intern too. And then they decided to reach out to me because they were looking for a som. Because the som there was moving to managerial position. Sorry, Eric Noon. I know you missed your job. But they sent me a link to the website, to the wine list, to give me a copy of it. I looked at it. I'm like, I'm in. We're all in. And Megan was all aboard. She wanted to move out of the city anyway, and we did. We moved back to Wisconsin, and we moved to Plymouth, Wisconsin at the right time because 2020 happened eventually, and we had more freedom.
Did something happen in 2020?
I don't know.
I think it was the 19 virus.
COVID 31. Yeah.
But yeah, you did come at a good time then.
Yeah, and then I hear stories of like friends that still live there during the pandemic, and they're like, man, like it's fucking awful. Like there's nothing on the shelves.
Does that mean you got your property like right before they skyrocketed?
I did. So we bought our property in 2017.
Oh yeah.
So way before any of that happened. My neighbors just sold their home, and it's crazy the amount they just got for it. And it was on the market for 1 day.
Yeah.
I looked at myself. I'm like, I don't know. Like, it's a beautiful
we
property.
Move?
should we move?
Megan?
I mean, 1-bedroom apartment? No.
Should we just struggle a little bit? It was kind of fun, right, Megan?
Chicago style.
Let's humble a little.
Yeah.
We gotta humble the kids,
Yeah. And then back to the first question, which was like, what paths, right? What's it? Yeah. Quartermasters, the W set. You can do like a few courses here and there. It doesn't have to be too big. Like you can make it as big as you want it to be when it comes to wine. You just decide how much money you want to drop on it, because it's not just like the exams. It's like the wine you're investing. How can you learn about wine if you don't taste?
Yeah.
But if you want to drink for free, Chicago's a place to be, because people are like trying to sell you everything under the moon. Like, hey man, try this, try that, try this. Like pretty tipsy at this point. I don't know if I can perform. So
Spit bucket like that.
yeah. I'm a lightweight. Like I don't drink. I just taste and spit. I slow down.
Yeah.
A question that I definitely had was, what was your first impression of Juan and I? Of Juan and I. Because you had already met me for a little bit before we started working together at Geneva Inn, but we didn't really get to know each other. It was really through passing.
Right. You know how they say like only God can judge me?
Yeah.
I fucking judge all the time. You kind of have to, like, especially in the world we live in. Like, you walk down the street, I'm like, this guy's gonna do something, right?
Yeah, this guy smells like shit.
Like when I go to Fleet Farm, everybody looks at me. I'm like, especially northern Wisconsin.
Oh,
I'm like,
I can't imagine.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. So.
Damn, you did grow up in Chicago.
You lost, boy.
When I saw Juan, like, it's pretty impressed. It's like, this guy has confidence, man. He can do things behind the bar.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think the first time I met him was when I first we introduced each other. Like, his son made me read him the employee handbook. So we went like out. I'm like, I was like, are you serious? You want me to read the whole handbook? She's like, yeah, read it to him so we can just cross it off our checklist. I'm like, don't we have a PowerPoint? She's like, we don't have any computers right now with a PowerPoint set up. So we just go. I'm like, all right, let's go outside. Let's go by the lake. It's pretty romantic. I think.
It was a nice day.
Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do. We were sitting outside on the patio, or where the patio was going to be.
Yeah, and I could have just told him like, hey man, here you go, read it, just come back in like half an hour. But I'm like, no, I want to bond with him. I want to feel if I make him feel awkward. Like I thrive from people's awkwardness, right? Like, Like I don't when there's silence, I let you struggle. Like I ain't helping you. Like, see what you can come up with, and we just read it, like all straight face, and like I'm like, any questions? Like no, man. Like so it's pretty good time. Yeah, nothing bad, all positive. But Luis, man, I don't know.
You can be honest. I won't take offense to anything.
That's what we've all said before.
Yeah. No, I understand.
I don't know about this guy.
Yeah. It's like I'm pretty confident, but this guy's pretty confident.
What's he hiding?
Way more confident. Like,
What's he compensating for?
We all know.
Why do you have truck nuts on a Honda Civic?
Delusion. That's what it is.
so I think when I really got to know you was when you worked at Brisago, and like when you're working above someone else, you think of them like, is he really that much more than me? Like he's working upstairs. Like how do I get upstairs myself? I want to be upstairs. I was like, how's
being upstairs had nothing to do with a better position.
But the outfits were better too. Like I'm wearing like this crappy chef coat that smells like sea bass, and like this guy's like nice cut, nice clean. He's going upstairs and just kill service, and I'm just down here like just breading calamari to order, and like my hands smell fishy. Like I want to kind of be like him, like that kind of confidence. So yeah, nothing bad, all good impressions. So
I thought you went light on me, but okay.
That was low light.
Dude, I got a few little like wine 101.
Yeah, we have a ton of like quick fire questions.
Yeah, I was gonna say, so like you can feel free to be as short and
be short if you want to be.
Yeah, be short if you want to be. You know, these are kind of like more fact based rather than opinion based. But no, don't laugh here, all right? Don't laugh at any of these, all right? Because like I said, these are from like more novice point of view. But would you say red wine is made from purple grapes and white from green?
Yeah, a lot of these.
So that's a question that we have. Is that a thing? Or could you elaborate into why that is not true and like what gives wine its color?
So what gives? Okay, so what was the first part? What makes what?
Is red wine from purple grapes and white wine from green?
There's probably a yes and no to that, right?
No. So it's a no. So you can get white wine from red grapes. You just do like a light crushing. I'm talking like I'm a winemaker. I'm not. Like this is all from like what I learned and tasting and seeing.
You know, to be honest with you, I thought that green grapes made white wine. No.
Really?
You swear to God.
Okay, see, that's not a silly question. All right.
As soon as you started,
squeezed harder.
Yeah.
You just took the inside.
That's how you squeeze.
As soon as Swan said that, I'm like, wait, that's not the way it is.
That's not true?
That's how you squeeze, man. So yeah, Pinot Gris are a good example where they're made with, or Pinot Blanc. Some of them, different clones are made with like redder looking grapes, and then it's like the light squeeze. You don't squeeze it when you're making the wine or crushing it, because then the tannin, the skin of the grapes will bleed into it. It could also just be the style of the winemaker, right? Like he wants to create a Pinot Noir, it's a red grape, but just use just the white juice, like the see-through juice with no tannin, because he wants to make it fresher. The tannin, the skin makes it a little bit more longer finish. He just wants a refreshing wine, right?
Interesting. Okay.
So yeah, no.
No would be the answer to that question.
And then I also was, obviously trying to do some research for this episode. The longer a grape is being fermented, it loses its color. Is that correct?
I don't know.
Oh, okay. I was doing some research about winemakers, and yeah, they were saying like the longer a grape sits, it loses its color. So depending on how dark the grape is, that's how long it was actually being fermented for.
Interesting. So you lose the color if you do light press or leave it longer in the fermented station?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Could you go into why wines are stored on their sides?
Yes. If you want to cellar your wines for a while, you're like, man, I want to leave this wine for my kids. You want to make sure there's cellar on their side, because if you leave it upwards, the cork will dry from within. You kind of want to make sure that's wet, moist. so it keeps that cork expanded and not shrunk.
Perfect.
Interesting. Okay, and the two worst things that can happen to wine, again, correct me if I'm wrong, are light and air. Is that correct?
Air, as in like
Tampering with the wine. I guess I should be more specific. A wine bottle.
yeah. So if it's in the bottle, like air's not gonna touch it, right? But
Yeah.
going back to that, like you want moisture. You want some type of moisture in the air
Right.
to keep it moist from the outside too. Like
Which
you
is
don't-
when you brought up the cork part, that made me think about that point again.
right. So yeah, you want to keep it a little bit humid in your basement, not all like dry, because that'll dry up the cork from the outside and then in. Another thing too, like light also, we'll cook the wine. We'll make it for Chardonnays. If you leave the wine by your windowsill, and then even for like a month, it'll turn more orange and brown, and that's called browning. Another thing too is like putting it above your refrigerator. People think like, man, that's a cool spot, right?
No.
People can see it. But heat rises, let's say you're cooking, especially if you're Mexican, you're always cooking something, tortillas, like all that heat rises, baby.
You're gonna be drinking some
warm wine, or
aged wine.
aged wine, like brown red wine.
Yeah.
So back to the light point, like light affects wine. That made me want to ask, why do so many? I guess in our area, why do we see so many wine storage units all super lighted up? If light affects at that point, does it not matter anymore once it's already like on at a restaurant?
So let's say you're going to like Total Wine or a Banish, right?
Yeah.
They all lit up LEDs. Like LEDs won't harm the wine as much as like UV light from the sun.
Yeah.
But there's also truth to that, right? Like you're walking down the aisles, it is 72 degrees inside, little air conditioning, so maybe 68. That's gonna hinder the wine in the long run. But their goal is to just flip that wine really quick. There's really no extra care for it. Not saying it's bad or wrong. Like keeping the wine in that temperature for like a year or two, it's not gonna hurt it. But like 5 years, you'll see some damage to that wine.
Okay. All right. Jay, you got any questions?
What level are you? I know we were talking about levels.
Level 2 certified from the Quartermasters, and level 2 from the WSET, the Wine Trust Educational.
He's looking around the room. He's fishing for it.
Or-
Here, let me
yeah.
quickly look it up. Can you repeat the acronym?
WSET.
Lynchburg News, weather, sports. SET, Wine and Spirit Education
Wine
Trust.
Spirit Education Trust. Yeah.
Okay, beautiful.
You ever thought about going further?
Yeah, I think I'm going to. I think life's too short to not have like those kind of big goals in life. I'm sure you guys heard of like All Lives Matter, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. No. Okay. So
We just had a debate about it last week.
yeah, going back to the Quartermasters, like they've gone through some issues with not representing BIPOC, and even the word like Court of Masters, like the word masters has always been kind of like an iffy thing when it comes to wine, because we're enjoying wine that was promoted by white people, right?
Yeah.
Throughout our lives.
Tell me why I was completely wondering about that. Like, why is it French grapes that are the most popular? Like, why is it these like newly colonized regions, Australia, New Zealand, Chile, Argentina,
Right.
United States? Like, these are all former European colonies that like happen to be the old and the new world. Like, why is there no African representation, quote unquote, or like
Yeah, we had
other
a South African wine.
yeah, but South Africa was a
predominantly
colony,
European, yeah.
a European colony, and they were under apartheid until like the 80s or 90s. So like, yeah, I was kind of wondering like, how does that history interject with the current modern wine world?
Yeah, so it has a lot of deep roots, like with what's currently happening in today's world. I guess we never really put it in a spotlight till this past couple of years, when people are like, you know what? Why do we have Cabernet? Why do we have like Pinotage? Why do we have all these weird grapes? And it's because of that. Like, French wines have always been like the lead for reasons. Colonization has happened, all these bad things in our history, that wine always pops up in history. That's what I love about wine, but it's also like a double-edged sword because the grape we're enjoying now was brought in here in not good terms, right? So like racism and wine is pretty big right now in my wine community. People are talking about it, and all these like other countries that don't get a spotlight. I feel like that's why I'm also doing what I'm doing, because I want to give them a spotlight. Like Italian wines is mostly male oriented, made by men and made with big, bolder texture profile to appease other men. It's never been like allowed to have women input until like the past 20, 30, 40 years. And that's why I love promoting wines that are made by women, because they kick ass. Like they have more taste buds than we do. They can sense and taste better things than we do. And
You're right. It's low-key like a superpower.
yeah, like
That's so interesting.
like how many master sommeliers are there in the world? A lot of men. Like it's mostly like 70% of men and then the 30% of women. Like why? Because we don't give women a spotlight. They always get, like you saw it like 2020, like women left the workforce to take care of their kids.
Yeah.
How can we help them get back to what they were doing before? And we're not helping them at all. Like there are some groups that are helping, like the Restaurant Coalition, started by one of the master sommeliers, Bob Stuckey, who helped kind of push like Congress to like, hey, we need some restaurant help. But I just feel like it's kind of hard because I love wine, but there's a lot of bad history within it, and it's like a double-edged sword. And
Could you like elaborate on like one of those like history like factoids that like would be interesting to us that kind of partakes and intersects with those themes you're talking about?
Yeah, it's tough because I don't want to throw any countries under the bus.
No, by all means, man. That's what we're about here.
Yeah, it's a no holds.
We don't hold punches.
hop on,
We
right?
will get canceled.
Yeah.
So
We've already been demonetized how many times?
So think of like Spanish wines or like ports, right? Spanish wines, Mexico was conquered by who? By Spanish people, right? And
Yeah,
then
they
they brought
essentially enslaved and raped all the women.
Yeah, I didn't know this, but when I visited Tulum, I literally learned about the caste wars, how Spain enslaved essentially the whole Mayan population in the heart of the Yucatan Peninsula, and quite literally had haciendas, and they were like the plantations of Mexico. That's what haciendas were at the time. I didn't know that shit. Telenovelas romanticized the shit out of them. I just thought pretty ladies would hang out there.
yeah.
Shout out to great grandma.
Shout out to great grandma not getting her property.
Thanks for surviving, Grandma.
Exactly.
Great-great-grandma.
Yeah, because you would, the more research you do about the time, you know, and I've been more interested in my Mexican roots the older I get, but yeah, you find out that like the kids were scalped and the men, like these native Mexicans were taken from their gold was taken from them, and the things that they would do to these Aztec warriors was they would, you know, essentially defecate, you know, on their mouth and then just, you know, slice their throat. And they would do that to the leaders. Yeah, they would do that to the leaders of these clans and these tribes so that they would set the example for the rest of them. So that the rest of them, what, you think that the Incas and all of those pyramids were built by the love and by like the praise of these Spanish conquistadors? Like, no, they were slaves. Like, that's what they did. And like, oh man, you got a ton of gold. You guys should build us a pyramid. I mean, that's what happened.
Homie, I'm pretty sure the pyramids were there pre-conquistadors, no?
Prove me.
Sorry, how old is the planet? 3,000 years?
Yeah, 6,000 years according
Oh,
to
6,000, I'm sorry.
6,000 years according
How
to.
can that be?
That's what Pastor Jeff says.
The numbers.
I'll give you something more common, like not more common, more current of like race and like
Yes, please.
The wine world.
the just liquor industry. Like you have Jack Daniels, right? I don't know if you guys knew this, but Jack Daniels was taught by African American slaves on how to make whiskey at one point. And at one point, Jack Daniels like, let's look into our roots, let's look into our history, let's see what we can come up with to come up with a new product, right? Because we're pretty much running out of ideas, like Jack Daniel Fire and all these like off brands and all these things.
Fireball.
Let's just find more things, right? And they looked into their history and they found out like most of these like that slaves worked like in this region of the Bourbon Trail, and Jack Daniels was taught by African Americans how to make whiskey. And then they're like, whoa, let's just stop right there, because if we do more digging, then we're gonna find more skeletons in the closet. And that's
Jesus.
and I'd rather have you tell me the whole truth about your product than continue to like just kind of hide it, because we're gonna find out eventually. Another thing too, like plantation, right? Plantation rum, like Caribbean rum. Like the word plantation itself is pretty racist. It has a lot of deep roots, enslavement.
Yeah, it literally might as well mean labor camp or like
camp.
slave labor camp.
Yeah, but right now they're trying to like change the name of the product so it doesn't have too big of that meaning. But it started from there.
Yeah.
So how about you like take it all in and like do something about it. Like be the difference. Don't just hide behind a curtain and behind like paying out the CEOs and like your people that are investing in you. Like
these shady public relation tactics, you know?
Right. Step up, do something.
Yeah. Okay, we'll go into some more quick fire questions. I'm gonna shoot you like 5 and then just answer them. Like I said, quick fire. Which wines have the highest percentage of alcohol?
Napa Valley Cabernets.
Beautiful.
Do you have a white one that you would throw into that?
Napa Valley Chardonnays.
Okay. Napa Valley.
That's why they drink that.
Napa Valley.
What's the most expensive wine that you've had?
I've had
And when?
I've had the chance to taste DRC, Domaine de la Romani Conti. These wines go for like thousands of dollars. I had the chance to try Latage 2013, and that was like $6,000.
God damn.
The table joked to me that like, we are your $20,000 table, and I was like kind of shrugging, like, yeah, cool guys, like let me bring you some wines that will open tonight.
Yeah.
And they recognize the label, so like, no, like we are your $20,000 table. I come back with like DRC, Screaming Eagle.
Was this Aaron Rodgers?
No, I think someone was
Yeah,
like
Aaron Rodgers
retiring.
Drinks.
And they're just like, let's just go all out. And then they're like, that's much better. Let's go. And then 5 bottles in, $20,000, and one of those being the DRC, $6,000. They're like, have some, try. Have you had it? I'm like, fuck no, I never had it.
Are you out of your
Fuck
fucking
no.
mind?
I don't want to lose my job.
I mean, I've had some like different vineyards by them,
Yeah.
$2,000 by like $6,000, but you can't tell the
Jesus.
difference in how expensive it is. I feel like my mind cannot process that.
All right, another quick fire question, and then we'll get into some more juicy ones. What is the oldest wine you've had?
1908 Madeira.
1908.
1908 Madeira. And that was in Chicago.
Holy
There's still juice in
shit.
there?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Those are
God damn.
gorgeous wines.
What did it taste like? Like, what's the biggest difference? Then?
So Madeira translates to Madeirized, so it's pretty much cooked. It cannot go bad or
Wow.
as bad. But it has like all these nutty flavors, like marzipan. It's almost like, right? Shout out to marzipan. It just has like all these like Thanksgiving flavors, like brown sugar.
Wow.
And these flavors you can only get with time. You cannot just buy it off like new vintage. You have to let those.
These are developed flavors.
These are developed flavors, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it does sound.
And that was a port wine, correct?
It's
Or
almost
no?
like a port. It's off the island from Portugal called Madeira.
Okay.
This, this may be a weird question, just going off of that, but you know how you said like you can only get this taste from an aged wine that aged this long. Is there any way to speed up the aging process with wines?
Get a hold of Elon Musk and then have him send bottles to space.
Yeah, could you theoretically put it in a vacuum void where you can simulate time?
I don't think so. I don't think so. Like they have like those decanters that spin the wine to aerate it. That does something about opening it, having oxygen integrate with it, and open up flavors. But I don't think it helps age it at all.
Yeah.
But I think it does, right? Like our skin, like oxygen gives us air, but then it takes it away.
Yeah.
So it does give it a little bit of that aging, but then it just falls apart quick, right? You cannot replace it.
All right, true or false? I mean, kind of. If you throw a wine through the blender and literally turn like a blender, like a ninja shot,
Yeah.
will it make the wine better?
Yeah.
I fucking knew it. I have been preaching this back for so long.
Yeah.
Just make sure you don't make the salsas in there.
It's a little spicy.
So because it breaks down the wine and it lets it air out.
It likes to air it out. Like you're replacing your hand.
Okay. Like you're like super swirling it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
All right. Now, Anthony, which cliches would you like to banish from the wine world forever?
Oh, that is a good question.
Man.
Feel free to say more than one if you feel like it.
Yeah.
You're welcome to say something Louis said today as well.
You definitely should say something.
Oh man, cliches. I guess cliches is like more like gestures. It's like always giving the man the wine list. I hate that. I worked at a restaurant for a short amount of time where like we always sended the wine to the man, whether it was the women ordering or not. Like that was always the go-to.
That's crazy.
And that got banished pretty quick after that I started working there. Like we're not doing that. Like
We're not doing that.
like this. And then I ran into a problem one time. Not a problem, but I ran into a table one time where the lady was like a master of wine. I'm like, I'm happy we changed that rule because that would have been like awful in a review.
Yeah.
It would have been embarrassing.
It would have been embarrassing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's one.
Wow, that's a very good cliche to get rid of.
What is the perfect grape to make a great wine in Wisconsin or the Midwest? Or which grapes should we be looking for if we want to taste like a local Midwest wine?
So we're heading towards the same. We're about the same latitude as like Oregon, just about, and then some French countries, but yet we are still growing like grapes that are unsuitable for wine long run. Like we're always making wine for ice wine. Like
Yeah,
everybody's
I
making
fucking hate that.
ice wine, man.
Yeah.
And it breaks my heart when like people spend like top dollar to get fruit and juice from California shipped to Wisconsin. So you have this wine traveling across the country on a truck, and it gets here, and then the winemaker plays with it. Like, how about you just play with your backyard? Like, you have the latitude. I get frost happens. I get snow happens. Do some research. Pay someone to like find the right clone with a great DNA that can withstand this cold, and then make awesome Pinot Noirs, Pinot Gris, Gewürztraminer, Riesling. Riesling does well here.
I've seen the G word. How do you pronounce that? The Gewürztraminer?
Gewürztraminer. There's a W in there just to pronounce it as a V. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's already white wine people making those wines that I just haven't found them. And if they are,
Interesting.
don't find me.
We had a really good white wine.
Yeah, Pinot
from-
Grigio.
It was actually a Pinot Grigio from
It was incredible.
Wisconsin, and it was fantastic.
Yeah,
I was gonna reach out to them actually and see if they had any other awesome wine for us to taste.
we should, honestly, on that one.
But yeah, that Wisconsin wine, I feel like because we're such a focused farmland, like it doesn't make any sense that we don't grow more wine.
Right.
Let's do it.
100%. Let's do it.
Let's all chip in.
Mexican wine?
Yeah.
Did you know Mexico's pretty big in wine?
Are they?
Yeah.
Are they making more?
I've been learning that.
Yeah, like Baja California, just north of like
Northern Mexico, right?
northern Mexico, and then central as well too. Like the rules set by white, I don't know how to call them, but book writers who have done research say like you cannot grow anything within certain latitudes. The closer you are to the equator, the more unsuitable the grape growing is. But we're breaking rules, and I love it.
Yeah. No. Another question that I definitely had was, how would you define? You were the person that taught me this, but how would you define old world versus new world and what that means itself when it comes to wine?
So old world is anything European, and then new world is everything non-European. So like New Zealand, Australia,
South Africa.
South Africa, South America, America. New kids.
What's an unusual or underrated, lesser-known varietal we should all try?
It's Albarino. I feel like it's out there. It's big. I like it. I love it. But it just doesn't get that love it deserves in smaller communities. You go to the city, Albarino is like the hippity hop stuff. But I feel like Wisconsin is a little behind the ball. But
We need to try more
And
Albarinos.
Albarino is a great budget varietal too.
Yeah.
You get that on a great budget price. What would you answer for that for a red wine?
All the wine hipsters know this one already, but Gamay,
What'd you call me?
Gamay from South Burgundy in the Beaujolais region. Pretty
We
bougie.
love Beaujolais.
Yeah, Beaujolais.
Yeah, it's gummy. It's awesome, and it's also in the budget too.
And
but-
it's cheap. That's what we like around
and it's
here.
cheap.
Yeah, that's what I like here.
But if you find a Gamay in California, those are killer because people that are making those are going against the grain of the classic winemaking. So
Beautiful. One question that this is going to be kind of a long point, but I recently binged all 3 Saw movies on Hulu, which are great to watch. I think they're really good, interesting movies if you're just interested in wine in general.
Did you say Saw?
Saw. Are you
Oh.
fucking dumb?
How the fuck does that have anything to
where
do
do
with
I
wine?
watch the
It's
Saw
spooky
movies?
season, bro.
They're not,
It's spooky season.
they took them off everywhere. They're not anywhere. Like I want to
You
watch
can't
them.
find them.
You can't
Yeah.
find them.
HBO Max has them.
Done.
HBO Max. There we
And
go.
Amazon Prime has everything for a price. Like,
Yeah, well, you can rent anything, but if you want to,
yeah, that's true.
Saw
True.
1 underrated.
Why
One of
the-
the best movies ever.
bro, he was dead, but he wasn't the whole
Hey,
time.
hey, chill out.
Yeah, that movie that came out 30 years ago.
Chill out.
Yeah, don't spoil it. I never got to Saw 9.
Like, when you were a kid,
It's called Jigsaw.
did you ever see like the DVDs of like the scary movies or at Blockbuster, and you'd be too scared to like
I wanna
touch
watch
the case?
Bro, to
Like-
this day, I can't even walk down aisles that have dolls in them because of how bad like horror movies have affected me. Like, yeah, when you walk down those Blockbusters and you see like all this, and they would all be black and fucked up. I don't think I've ever said it on the podcast, but you know that movie Jack Frost?
Yeah.
So there's 2 Jack Frost movies. There's the one with the guy who played Batman. What's his name? Oh, fuck. The very first Batman. He was
Michael Keaton.
Michael Keaton. So there's a movie where he loses his soul, but it like goes into a snowman, and it's a really heartwarming
Oh, I remember
story.
that.
It's really, and dude, it makes you cry at the end. It's a really heartwarming story about him and his kid, and how like he ends up dying in a car accident, but he comes back as a snowman. Anyways, great movie. However, there's another Jack Frost movie where the snowman is like a killer snowman.
Oh shit, I do remember the cover to that too.
Yeah.
And I rented out Jack Frost thinking I was watching Michael Keaton, and then I saw this terrifying movie about some killer snowman.
It ruined you for Snowman.
And now I was just like, God damn it. Back to my original point. And one of the points that was brought up in Psalm 2 specifically was wine epiphanies. The first time that I had wine, every time I drink wine before that, I'm like, whatever, I'm drinking wine. This is cool. I'm getting tipsy. No big deal. The first wine I had when I'm like, oh, this can be different and this can be good, was a Beaujolais that you had poured for a training session that you gave to us when we worked together.
Nice, man.
And that was like the first time I'm like, wait, wine can be fucking different. Like, it doesn't have to be
it can be this
a
complex.
Pinot Noir,
yeah.
a Cabernet. It can be actually good, and it smells like jam and blueberries. What was your first wine epiphany of like, oh shit, there's something here. Like, this isn't just the same shit over and over again. Where it
This
gets
isn't
me
like
drunk.
Tito's.
Yeah.
Rosati.
It's coming off the rail. I think it was a Riesling from Germany, and Rieslings I've had in school, they were sweet. I'm like, this is gonna be another sweet one, but I just want to try it. It's got a fancy label, and I don't remember the name of it. But it was super, super dry, and that dryness is, it's like a bad acid trip. It's like it just dries your palate. It's like wet stone, and really, there's no wet stone. Have you tasted a wet stone?
The Pinot Grigio we had from Wisconsin was actually very much like,
Yeah, very minerally.
physically,
Physically, like
Oh,
a licked
no.
one, right? It's just like our brain trying to like connect to things that make sense. It's like after rain, like when you smell that after rain, sometimes you smell in the wine the moist. It's just bacteria dying, like and then you smell that, and then that triggers your brain to like, you know what, that smells like that. But you never think about it beyond the smell, like the science behind it. But that Riesling had all of that. Like it just took me for a loop of like, it's fascinating when your brain gets tricked. Like when you get surprised, that's such an amazing thing. And that was it. And that was when I was an intern at the American Club for the Immigrant Restaurant, which I work at now today. So.
Beautiful. Jay, you got a wine epiphany? The first time you had a wine where you realized like, oh, there's something here other than just some red juice.
Man, that's hard to pinpoint.
There's that one that stands out. Juan, you got one that stands out?
For me, I can't think of specifically one wine epiphany, but I, like, in the beginning of my wine drinking days, I had a lot of those style of moments with earthy wines like Malbecs, Zinfandels, where it was, fruity, juicy, spicy, earthy. It's not just prominent fruit. It's got like secondary flavors, like third level flavors. So for me, that's when I started having like those epiphanies, like those, oh, this is like really interesting. Like each wine is almost like an expression of that region, time and place of when it was made. It's an expression or like a painting of those winemakers, like that's what they were trying to portray to you at that time. And that's kind of what got me really into it. Like, and me being like a little like geography fucking nerdo, like that makes no sense. Like the global aspect of the wine, being able to taste something from South Africa, a Malbec from Argentina or from Chile, like all of that is incredibly interesting. Seeing in the differences in how Argentina and Chile produce much earthier flavors than like California, which is, very fruit centric. All of that was just super interesting to me, so I just dove in deep headed after all that.
Yeah. I agree with Juan. It was just like a different tasting of different things, and once you got that under your belt, you really got into it and see what you like and what you didn't like, and that things are different.
Yeah.
But yeah, if I had to pick one, maybe an Amarone.
Ooh, that's a great one.
That's one that got me a little bit like, oh man, yeah.
That's a great choice. That's a great choice.
Like,
complex.
I can drink this.
Yeah.
Like I can enjoy this.
That's a good choice.
Like it's a good
Those are
meal.
heavy, like high alcohol, like 16%, but they're amazing.
Yeah. I have a few another question, Anthony. So I want you to put a person in mind, right? Let's paint a picture in your head, right? Let's paint a picture of like a gentleman who's perhaps a plumber, perhaps likes to go bowling. It's more of like a common man,
sounds
right?
Very specific. So
now I want you to tell me if you could recommend one wine, varietal, or region to this particular person who, on an average day, likes to relax with a PBR or when he's feeling a little eccentric, Miller Lite. What would you recommend to him?
Again, very specific. Doesn't sum it up at all.
I like how you throw PBR under the bus, man.
I love PBR.
I know. I am being...
And so does this plumber, apparently.
So I think I would do like California. Something California. Like get him hooked. Just get him to bite and then reel him in with the other stuff. So like give him like the staples like Pinot Noir from Russian River Valley or Cabernet from Napa Valley, just anything jammy for forward. Because I feel like from what you're picturing in my head is his diet involves like bigger, bolder flavors, except for the beer part. And you want to just make that expression on his mouth, right?
Yeah.
So you want something bolder to hook.
So you want something fruity like those
Fruitier.
California flavors. Okay, perfect.
That's really good. Well, a question that I definitely think should be asked is there can be a lot of pressure on somebody when there's an expert standing over them. So how would you recommend, the question specifically is how would you go about your first wine tasting? But even furthermore, is there a certain way that you would take into a wine tasting or ordering wine at a restaurant? Let's say you're out for an anniversary, you don't really drink wine often. Maybe you don't even drink often that much, but you want to start getting into wine for maybe some of our younger audience. What are some key, I guess, descriptions or things that they can look into to then walk in a little bit more confidently?
Yeah, I love that question because sometimes I get like people on first dates or like people that have been dating for so long, but they're so intimidated by wine. What I try to do is like make you feel comfortable, like just like even my, and like, it goes back again to like making assumptions and judging people. Like you kind of have to in this industry. You look at someone, you be like you want to make them feel like happy, and like if you sense some type of like they're being timid, then you kind of just want to ride that wave and be like, how can I help you in what you're feeling right now? I don't want to make you feel even more uncomfortable. But one thing is like know your true self. Like what do you drink every day? Like think of like simple things like coffee, sodas, tea. For like your coffee and tea, do you add a lot of sugar and cream? Because that translates to how sweet you want the wine and how creamy and soft you want the wine. And that's one thing I'll ask people getting started into wine. Like, how do you like your coffee? Like little sugar, little cream?
I never fucking thought
That's
of that.
that's genius.
That's why you're a Sommelier.
That's dope.
And
And
like
I'm a
people
dumbass
say,
in a
On the internet with a
sec-
podcast.
Yeah, in the second bedroom.
This is why we're a third-rate podcast over here.
Please continue.
yeah. And some people will be like the opposite. So they'll be like, oh, I like overly sugar, overly sweet, but I just like dry. I'm like, what does dry mean? And I bring in the driest one. It's like, ooh, that's too dry. I'm like, okay.
So you don't like dry.
So you don't like dry. And that's how I kind of just start to like find that sweet spot. And I don't just bring one glass. I bring like 3 glasses. And I'm like, taste all 3. I'll talk about each one of them. And then you decide which one you want to do. And they love that because they're like traveling around the world through 3 glasses. They went to New Zealand,
Oh,
they went
that's
to
cool.
Burgundy, and they went to California without having to go anywhere. Like you're sitting down, you're tasting these countries, and that's pretty good. And they'll find something. And if anything, I'm helping them educate themselves and educate their future sommelier or whoever's serving them the wine of what they like. So yeah.
Yeah, because one thing that I really we can't do it anymore because of COVID, but one thing that I loved to do when I was serving was
out?
yeah, absolutely. But people would be like, "Oh, I'm torn between these 2 wines," so I'd bring out both glasses of wine, but I would put one over like a black beverage napkin, and I would be like, "All right, I'm not gonna tell you which one's which, just tell me which one you like more, and I'll just bring you that glass."
Yeah.
And a lot of times they'd be like, "Oh, I'm leaning towards Chianti, but I want to," but like. So giving them that option of just go by taste. Like
Yeah.
don't go by what you think. Just taste them and go from there. And I think like you said, know what you like and kind of go from there.
Yeah. Another thing too I try, and this is what helps me learn more about wine, is like I'll bring multiple bottles to the table, and then I talk about each one of them, and then one of them will speak to them the most, and then they'll be like, I want that one. It's got a pretty label, or this one is, I have a German blood in me, or something that will tie them together, and they'll choose something. Like there's wine for everybody. If you have like $50, $25, I'll find you something. Like you don't have to spend a lot of money.
Beautiful. Looks Jay's got a question.
No. What's the most overrated and most underrated wine that, in your opinion?
So that piss off a lot of people. It's about to piss off all his wine friends.
So let's get rid of Southern Comfort.
That clip, by the way,
That's so good.
rings so true.
Yeah.
To just like I remember asking you like, what do you want me to do with those 11 bottles downstairs? And you're like, keep them down there. Like, I don't want them up here.
Yeah, they were okay with throwing a little bit of money there at one point.
At one point, yeah.
And then started like, are we not seeing anything come back? We need more money. Man, that's tough. It's a double-edged sword because I don't like wine communities that are destroying the land. Like Napa Valley is seen as this golden child, but it's the last Eden. Like I feel like it's the last frontier of like we can make this place beautiful. Make Napa Valley great again.
Let's get those heads going.
Yeah. They really have built on good land, on preserved land for wild animals and wildlife, and all they saw was like money signs, right? So they started just like buying out all these acres left and right, and today you have runoff, you have contamination, like and people are just like paying the fines, getting their hands slapped, and then just calling it a day because they can make more money anyway, and to pay off any kind of.
They're accounting for the regulatory fines at this point.
Right.
Interesting.
Shout out Fairlife.
Yeah, Jesus Christ. Fucking animals.
Man, it's hard to
Literally.
say any wineries without hurting people, right? Because there's families, there's like immigrants that are working those lands anyway. So to like throw a specific name under the bus would be unjust for me. So I
Fair
feel
enough.
like I can't name one.
What
Though
about
I-
his?
though I want to.
What about his other question? Underrated.
Underrated. Arizona, Colorado.
No shit.
Wine out of there?
Yeah, great
That's
wines.
cool.
Because it's so
All right.
dry.
Yeah.
You'd probably get some really sweet wine, wouldn't you?
Yeah, Paso Robles is another place, but they're becoming pretty
Known.
pretty known.
I was
and
gonna
it's
say
like
because
they-
I've read a lot of Paso Robles. wines.
yeah, and they don't need any more help. But like, oh, there's other places. Like, do you know the band Tool?
Yeah.
Tool.
I'm butchering the name of the winery, but I think it's called Catasis. So the lead singer of Tool makes his own wine. So after he's done touring, he's like, I'm tired of people. I'm tired of like the social life. I just want to go make wine, man. And there's I think there's a documentary on either Netflix or Hulu where he's just talking about his wine. It's pretty cool. So
That's sick. Wow.
What has been the biggest change in the wine world since you started your career?
all of the quartermaster drama and scandal. There was a cheating scandal where people were giving the answers in the wines that would be blinded for the master, the last level, and people did not tell the judges who it was or anything like that until later, because 20 plus people passed, and that's a red flag right away, because you only have about 2, 3, 4 max passing, but you have a class of 20 plus, that raised some alarms, and people, it was unjust for the people who passed fairly, but they had to take everybody's pins away and their diplomas. It's just soul crushing. People were like on their last straw, like, I can't do this again. This is like destroying my social life, my family time. And another one too, like just master somms taking advantage of their position and getting away with harassing women. And to know that your idols are pieces of shit sometimes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that can definitely be heartbreaking.
Yeah, no, people sometimes a lot of those chefy like figures that are given a little bit of power in the industry sometimes abuse of that a lot, you know.
Right, so that's been good and kind of shaking that up a little bit.
Yeah. I got 2 questions about kind of both different aspects. Do you think there's any validity to 3 I'm just going to be pretty general here, no specifics. Latino between 24 and 27 talk about wine? Do you think there's any validity? And then
There's any value in that?
Because they're not sommelier, they're just generally trained.
Are you asking for my opinion if you guys should shut this down?
Yes.
No, it's great, and there's a reason why I said yes to this right away, like, because
Which we were, like, again, honored that you said yes.
I asked my wife, like, they asked me, like, what do I say? She's like, yeah, do it. You need to do it.
Thank you, Megan.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you, Megan.
Megan and I always had a good relationship, so that's great.
Yeah, I feel like you guys are doing great. Like, we need more voices. You saw me. We're in Wisconsin, and we are 3 Mexicans in one room. And if you drive down the road, like, there's nobody else like us. Like, it's mostly one population that dominates this place right here. And to not have a voice, to not voice it, it almost seems like cruel. Like, our parents gave us this opportunity to have our voice be heard, and to not use it, it's almost like a crime, right?
For sure, yeah.
In any way, shape, or form, like whether being rebellious or just drinking wine, like, do it.
Beautiful. Man, that means a lot.
That was poetic.
Yeah, thank you very much.
We're gonna have to clip that.
Yeah, no, we definitely will. No, that was beautiful. And it, like, again, it means a lot that you were able to, you're a professional who's in this field and has been in this field for, a lot more than the 3 of us. And obviously, like you said, it does give us a voice, and something that we love and we're passionate about, which is food and wine, and just telling stories that maybe you're not able to hear every day from the white man putting us down. So
I think, and also I think wine is just something that has such a large disparity. Like it's like you either know a lot about wine or you know nothing about wine. There's like nothing in the middle, and I feel like that's kind of where we sit because it's very interesting to us. But like most people don't really, it's just not there. It's not a comfortable place to be with knowing about wine. So I think it's kind of cool that you can talk to to people even our age that are just drink sweetest wine or rosé because it looks pretty.
Yeah.
Actually give them a little bit of insight of.
Yeah, let people know they have options to move on to past like those, barefoots and the Australian sweeter wines and all that stuff. Right. So.
Yeah, no, and again, coming on piggybacking on George's point that people will just drink what they, either something super sweet that they think is really good, or something super bold that like, oh, this is so heavy, like it's got to be good. When in reality, it's like, no, you can have a medium body, like maybe you don't want to drink Pinot Noir, but step up to a Pinot Nero and get a little bit different. And I owe a lot of my knowledge of wine to the training that you gave us and to the training that I was provided at some other restaurants where it's like, in order to make money, you got to sell the big wines. And so if you don't know about the wines, even if you're not able to taste them, at least do research and then kind of dive in. And that's when you're able to really get an understanding and a very attractive relationship to wine, and you're able to taste more and understand them more.
Yeah. Yeah, don't be afraid. Be like, can I taste anything in the store? They might look at you like, yeah, try it.
Yeah, because you're going to buy shit anyway.
Yeah.
So they're like, yeah, if you're going to buy more, then we'll get you tipsy.
Yeah, right. And don't always be afraid to like ask like, hey man, what's on sale? Like, hey, what do you got? Because like I've been asked like when people are spending like more than $1,000 on a bottle, it's like, can you do anything better with the price? I'm like, absolutely. But then you have people that are on a budget, they are afraid to ask because they might think I'm judging them. But like, don't be afraid to ask. Like, what can I say? No, and that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was actually another question that I had is, do you think that wine specifically, you should come at it from your budget and then hit the best wine at your budget, as opposed to trying to find the best wine and then trying to find something at your budget? Just like, all right, I have $30 and I want to buy the best $30 bottle of wine, as opposed to being like, I love Cabernet, let me find the best Cabernet at $30. Because then at $30, maybe you can find a really good Chianti or something along those lines.
Yeah, I feel like you should go in with like an open mind. Just go in with $30 and find the best thing in that range. Because then maybe the owner will be like, I have something back here. Or like, it's 32, but I'll sell it to you for 30. And then you just broken that threshold of the $30, and then you're jumping into a different category, more premium price, more premium wine, quality. I feel like if you're going like with one mission, you're gonna look at that shelf. There's nothing. You walk out, and then you feel disappointed. At least make it fun. Like give yourself some time to like explore. One website that I use, and I pull it out on my phone. People look at me like I'm taking pictures. Someone say I am.
Rotten Tomatoes.
Rotten Tomatoes. How many Rotten Tomatoes? And then I just go winesearcher.com and I put the wine in, and if it's like more expensive at the store, I just like pass on it. So that's one tool you can use when you're shopping around. Be like, hey man, they're selling it for this, but what can you do, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Since we're talking about purchasing wines, I think it would be helpful to mention what you as a sommelier look for when you get to a wine store. What and it'd be cool if you told us like maybe do you look for different things at different price points, or maybe even give us like a recommendation on like a more everyday wine and a more special occasion type of wine.
Yeah, usually they have the shelves pretty, like, there's a strategy to how they place the shelvings, right? Like how they place the wines on shelves. Like the bottom ones are your bulk wines and expensive, and then you have the top high-end wines at the very top, and then you have the ones that they really want to sell more volume in the middle, like eye level, so those get sold pretty quickly. And there's a lot of things happening behind the placing too. Like you can have like 3 rows, 4 rows, an end cap, and that's people kind of paying if they want and compete to the store. Be like, hey man, can you give us more shelving? Can you give us more space? Here's a couple of things. Here's a free bottle of wine. Here's some money or whatever. just to sell a little bit more. What I look for is just like the middle and sometimes the top, but it's usually your common staples like your Camus, Belo Gloss, all those wines that you can find pretty easily anywhere now. What I look forward to is like that sale, if they have it, like that, the cart where they just dump a bunch of wine. I'm like, I dive right in there. I'm like, what's going on in here? What's in here? And you find sometimes some diamonds. Like I find some cool stuff from like Veneto or Lombardi, like even Cadibosco, sparkling wine. It drinks like champagne, but it's like you're in Wisconsin. People don't understand and don't know it, and so they just put it in a cart thinking that it's just trash when it's just, in reality, it's amazing stuff. And then
Oh, wow.
also behind the counter, they'll have like the high end stuff. Sometimes they don't even price them because they don't expect you to buy them or ask. But I asked, like, hey, how much you're selling that bottle of Blanton's, that bottle of Pappy, and they say something outrageous. I'm like, cool, nice to know. Nice to know that you got a nice museum back there.
Yeah.
Good museum. But yeah.
Oh, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
Do you have any questions for us?
Death Row wine. Your like last wine. What would it be? I know like there's probably some expensive wines out there, but it doesn't have to be expensive. It can maybe Moscato. Like, what is like your death row? Even if you don't have like a name of a wine, like what grape?
I have a very specific wine, which is De Pinti Pinot Noir La Vie, because that was one of the first wines I tasted. And I would just wanted something to go down easy and smoothly, and yeah, just give me a glass of that, and then good night. You know, say hi to the kids for me, and God bless. So I'd probably pick that. Just a really easy wine to drink.
Like it.
I like the 2015-16 Pinotage out of South Africa. I really enjoyed those because that one was like very coffee forward, like chocolate, dark chocolate. Just interesting flavors you don't get in a lot of New World wines. So I like that one, but the last Pinotage we had was like much more earthier and like meaty.
It smelled like bacon.
Yeah.
Bacon.
Yeah.
It was a little
Like
weird.
straight bacon.
Yeah, so
That's
like
the only thing I could taste. In the thing.
yeah. So but
I get it, man.
a different vintage year, I feel like I've had that I would say 5 times in my life, and every like 4 out of 5 has been nothing but like coffee, mocha, Java. And the 5th time it was earthy, savory, almost like a hint of soy sauce. Yeah, it was just a different experience. What about you, George?
Yeah, it's tough, man. But I think I'm gonna have to go with Luis kind of on like the first wine that I think I like had that like I really enjoyed, and I think it might have been like the Prisoner Red Blend. That might be the first one.
Yeah.
Like something it was
medium
simple.
body,
Yeah,
easy to drink.
simple, but like I really liked it. Like, it was
Let's
the
go back to that question of what wine I would just. What was it? What was it? Throw under the bus. Overrated.
You know what?
Is it the Prisoner?
Yeah.
Every,
and I know why.
Look
at
right
the picture
there.
Tell us why.
Tell us why.
So you look at the label, and what do you see?
You just see some guy, well, literally shackled up.
Enslavement, right? Imprisonment.
Yeah.
Like even the label itself is like.
We were talking about this the first episode.
The very
Yeah,
first
I brought,
episode we
I
talked
brought
about.
an unshackled. What was it, Cabernet?
It was
I think it was somewhere.
Right.
in there.
it was a
Yeah.
red wine called Unshackled, produced by the Prisoner,
Yeah.
and we were like asking if it was produced in Montgomery, Alabama,
making
or some
jokes.
shit.
Like, this has got to be racist.
And it's like it just has some meaning. I mean, I'm sure it doesn't, right? It's just a label, but like the psychological thing, like someone designed this label to kind of make our brain think about it like this is attractive, like this is nice,
Yeah.
right? Like, but why do we like it? Why do we like this label? The wine itself, it's good, it's fine, it's a Zinfandel blend. It got bought out, but like they're crushing, they're selling it, they're feeding their kids, right?
They're filming the
Someone's feeding their kids.
Yeah, Jesus. Yeah, so I was able to get that Prisoner picture up there. I should probably post it on the Instagram page. Just because it looks cool.
Yeah.
We have a bunch of bottles and you pictured.
Yeah, I put them all away just for this episode.
Anthony, what's your favorite music to listen to when you're drinking wine?
That was gonna be one of my last questions.
Oh man, I love it. So I don't play anything too loud or screaming when the kids are around or my wife. I don't like to give my wife headaches, and she made that very clear. That it does make her have headaches, and I respect that. I get that. It's not her taste, but I listen to like pretty heavy stuff. Like, oh man.
I listen to very heavy rock as well. So
Okay, you shoot. Give me something.
give you something that's like heavy.
Yeah.
I mean, I like screamo mixed with like singing. So I like Wise Man's Fear, I See Stars.
Cool.
Insane Clown Posse.
Yeah, totally. ICP. Get some Fago.
Yeah.
So Cradle of Filth, like that's pretty like hard as I'll go. But anything like Bring Me the Horizon.
Did you say Cradle de Vil?
Good. Yeah.
Cradle of Filth.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Cradle of
Yeah.
Filth.
If you're gonna listen to that, just make sure there's start at volume 1 and then work your way
And
up.
work your way up.
Yeah, it's.
And you would recommend that as good wine drinking music?
No, definitely not. One good one is like Shaky Graves. Like that's a good tune for like drinking. It's easy. Like
Shaky Graves. And this is by Cradle of Filth?
No,
Okay.
Shaky Graves is like
their own thing?
The band, yeah. It's pretty good.
Oh yeah.
Interesting. Is there any proof to red wine making you slightly gay? Like, because I feel after a glass or two, I start questioning myself. Or is that just all mental?
I feel like that's all you, man.
You don't think so?
I think it's just you, man.
All right, fair enough. I figured if I'd ask a sommelier, I'd get my answer for once and for all.
I'd love to ask you something though. What's your dream thing to do with wine? Like you could do so much. You know, you could open up your own store. You could have a vineyard. I know that might be the ultimate goal. Like maybe having a vineyard, but like
That's the magnum opus.
Let's have one that's an extreme goal.
Magnum opus.
Let's have an extreme goal and then something that's more like, yeah, I could do this in the next 5 to 10 years.
I love that. I love that so much because I've been thinking about that lately so much. Or like, what's my next step? Like, I like to be able to put my kids to bed every night. Like Megan does it by herself. Both the girls. Like, she is like my rock. Like, she is such a great mom and a great. She has her own shop too, so she's doing a lot.
Is she still in the industry as well?
She's not. She got out of the industry. I think about 3 years ago. She worked for Kohler as well too, and got out of it just in time, right? And we just wanted to focus on her family a little bit more, and she wanted to focus on her true goals, which is like running her shop. She curates a shop with like handmade toys, apparel for kids, babies, and even like moms.
Is there an online store?
There is.
We will link it in the description down below.
Yeah,
Go
and-
support local.
Yeah, what's the name?
So the Instagram handle is at Wild Oak, and then the website is My Wild Oak.
Wild Oak.
Wild Oak.
Okay, beautiful. Yeah, we'll link them in the description down below.
Awesome, thanks.
Of course.
Yeah, I think I want to do my own. I want to do something like my own shop, my own something.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like all the shops around the area just don't cater to. They're missing this like demographic, like us, right? What stores do you guys go to? Like you go to Pick and Save, Piggly Wiggly. They have the same common people, the same common wines, targeted to specific like people. Like we are from Mexico. About some tequilas made from Mexico, like smaller ones. Not talking about like Don Julio, which is pretty good though.
Patron.
Patron. Or
Yeah, I
me.
get so annoyed when I go down the aisles of tequila and I see like
3. Don Julio, Patron, and Jose Cuervo.
Jose Cuervo, and it's like
Yeah.
and clearly like these aren't good quality.
Right.
So the week before I had Espotlon, which is pretty good. So I've been trying to do more research about like, all right, can I get something that's actually made by Mexicans, that's mass produced.
That's what I feel too. I just grab something that's like the same price point, but random. I just
Good
take
for
a
you.
random pick what it is.
That's good.
Yeah, because like you keep buying these big bottles that are like commercially made, and like it's just going to the pockets of some CEO.
Right, and like all these celebrity things, right?
Right.
Which is fine, right? Because then you have your CEOs that want to make their own wine. So why should they be able to make their wine and not celebrities?
Yeah.
Like, but yeah. I think just to cater to more people looking for hidden gems that they don't even know about. too.
You make a killing. You make a killing for sure.
Yeah, that's a
Because
very good
everything
point.
around here is just I find the same issues. You
So
find the
just
same
California
Yeah.
wine.
find the same things.
Yeah,
There's
like when was the last time you had like nice bar tools, like your own bar tools? Like you,
Yeah.
you go to work and it's like the same common like group that sells for the whole restaurant, and they're crappy, clunky.
Seriously.
I got 4 wine keys on the table. They're all the same.
Right. Like there's more to it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
and then what about a big goal?
Big goal?
Yeah, what's the
What's the ultimate?
North Star?
Look, I thought that was the ultimate star.
Oh, that was the ultimate, man. What was, I don't know. I think that's it. Just like
Third kid, maybe?
Like someone
Go for
like,
twins
you know-
on the next
you
one.
know the most about wine out of anybody I ever know. Here's $500,000 to invest in something. What are you doing with it?
how much? 500?
Let's make it a million.
Alright, let's
Fuck
make it
it.
a million.
Let's make it a million, yeah.
What are you doing with it?
Just make a wine shop like from scratch, and like make it visually beautiful. Like you have all these wine shops, right? What makes them apart from each other? It's the interior too. Like it looks cool
Yeah.
inside. Like you want to feel proud to go to a liquor store, not like feel like you're just gonna go pick up something and just get wasted.
Yeah.
Like you're gonna pick something classic, and also provide like non-alcoholic things too. Like that's a big thing in California, Chicago, New York. The non-alcoholic cocktail programs that they're making. Like you don't have to get buzzed. You have to get like shit-faced to enjoy good things. Like you can have all these small things like hand-picked like honey and like ingredients to make good stuff that it's not fermented into alcohol. You can still enjoy and have a good time. Because like cooking, right? Like you go to Walmart, you pick up a chicken, it's just chicken. But if you pick it up from like a small person who sells like they raise the chicken, they name the fucking chicken, and then like that means more to you, right? It's more closer to the farm. Like I want to be able to show that in a wine shop, just like have more connections with my community.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's huge because you made your net way bigger. You incorporated so many more people in there.
That's a beautiful goal.
Yeah.
We're approaching 2 hours, so Juan, you wanna?
Any last questions?
Yeah, you wanna kind of ask a few more?
Okay. Could you go a little bit into how wines get their different aromas and flavors? Because I think there's this misconception that a lot of people that are new to wine think that winemakers are infusing these bottles of wine with like either red fruit, purple fruit, literally cherries, pomegranate. You know, they think that when we're saying, oh, we taste these things, they may think that they are actually in there. But could you go a little bit into how they develop those flavors and where they come from?
Yeah, 100%. So some people do add dry ingredients to wine to fix any faults. There's this ingredient in the community called Mega Purple. Some wineries that I know and that are on shelves today that use chemicals to enhance flavors, to make them purple, deeper, and some of them do actually have side effects that give you headaches, and that's a different topic too. Like wine gets a bad rep for that, but there's nothing if it's like a good wine made by a good producer, they're not adding anything. They're not adding like apple juice, orange juice, lemon juice. It's all just our brain once again, just trying to like tie things that make sense to us. Memories, things you tasted in the past, like lemon lime, lemongrass, the after rain, just a good example. So none of that's being added. And then the oak also gives an impression of like this nuttiness. Depends how the oak is made or how it's harvested. You have American oak and then you have French oak. French oak has a little bit like that vanilla flavor, but not as potent as the American oak. American oak has coconut, tropical flavors, almost vanilla to it. So it's all just from the grape itself, its DNA, the tannin structure, the fruit, the juice, the ripe levels, and the oak. And the winemaker might add a little yeast to it too.
Okay.
Beautiful. Wow. That was very interesting. Jay, you got any questions?
I don't know. Let Juan take it.
How would you approach wine and food pairings? Like what what is going on in your brain? What's like, I look for this factor is number one. This factor is more on a secondary level. What's going on in that?
So we do tasting menu in my restaurant. We have the a la carte on the left and the tasting menu on the right. And on the right, we have 7 options. And for each option, I pair a wine to go with each course. And what I look for is things that go together, grow together, or opposites. So let's say you have a foie gras. Foie gras is savory, so something a little sweet might help enhance it a little bit. Just go with it. And these are opposite ends. You have something salty and savory and something sweet. So that kind of marries each other, and that's a good example of opposites attract. Something that like is alike is like soup. Like think of like Wisconsin, 100% Wisconsin soup. Any soup you want usually has a lot of heavy cream, butter, kind of Paula Deen style. Then you want to do some buttery, like an oaky Chardonnay, that just kind of elevates everything, makes everything even more heavier, raises it to a different level. And then you have things that grow together, go well together. Like think of Italian food. Like it's mostly, the pasta was not created in Italy. It was created in Asia. One of my
Yeah, and you know what? Italian food overrated. I just want to get that out there.
100%.
You say that because you were to what?
100%.
So think of Italian flavors, and then Italian wines have those flavors. Have like this tomato leaf, almost like biting the vine of a tomato plant that just goes with it. So that's another way to do it, because people are making wine to go with their food far longer than America was rediscovered.
So with let's elaborate a little bit on that. Could you tell me how you would apply those rules and principles to like everyday foods, like say a burger, pizza, perhaps cheese curds? Like let's just throw out some regional foods that everybody's eating. Which wines would you apply to those particular foods?
Let's just use the next door pub menu as a reference.
Exactly. That's basically the Wisconsin diet.
It's been a while, man.
It hasn't changed. Chicken sandwiches, burgers.
Chicken parm is probably their best thing, and that hasn't changed in 30, 40 years.
I've never had chicken parm.
I'm lactose intolerant, so
Hey, bro. See, there's some of us.
it's rough. Lactate all day.
Hey.
Let's reach out to them for lactate sponsors.
Yeah.
So think of like a burger with like their homemade barbecue sauce. You and I know what proteins taste like. You and I know what chickens, beef, all these things. But it's how we cook it, and that's how my culinary background like really helps. Like you poach it, you grill it, you add a lot of salt and pepper, so the preparation, and then the components and the sauce is what kind of sets the pace and the volume that you want to match with a bottle of wine. So let's say it's sea bass sear, comes with a buttery sauce, let's say Bernaise. Some people like it with Bernaise, or heavy tapenade with olive oil or olives, Kalamata olives with it. So you wouldn't do like a light Chablis. You would do something heavier like a Chardonnay if you want to stick to white and the principles. But you can always do like a Pinot Noir, just jump into the reds, but on the lighter spectrum of reds if the dish is pretty tuned up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Okay. Any questions? I kind of asked a lot of mine as we were going through. Anthony, you got any other questions for us?
Who's going to be your next guest?
We haven't thought that far.
I'm working on that right now. I'm in contact with Jim Black.
Oh, there
So-
you go.
Oh.
So that's going to be interesting.
Get to hear some.
Are you guys going to match your profile picture?
What do you mean?
I think the previous one he had a fish.
Everybody see your fish?
Bro, I've been getting so many comments about that. I just felt like it was time to switch it up.
No, he loves fishing.
With the classic.
Oh,
He left a comment too.
yeah. I did not know Jim was a big fisherman. Is that a thing?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Dang,
you
I
have to
wasn't
comment on
aware.
that, yeah.
I was not aware. We're going to have to touch base on that, me and
Yeah, we
him.
are.
Yeah.
Yeah, get
Jim was a bartender we worked with at the Geneva
Yeah,
Inn. He's
who's
the one that
war hero.
he's literally the one that went to Central America to fight the CIA death squads.
Get political, man, with him.
Yeah,
we
He'd be
definitely
good.
will.
That's what we're gonna. That's what
gonna
we're
be a
hoping
deep
for.
dive on politics.
Yeah, dude, he has no shame about like. I remember one time Brento like was asking him like what he considers himself as like politically, and he had no like zero flinch. He's like, yeah, I'm a fucking socialist. He told Brento that. Yeah, he's like, yeah, I'm a socialist. He's like, yeah, and then he went on to tell him like, I went to Central America and lived this and that. Like yeah, I live that shit. Like, and Brento's just like, yeah, sounds good. What is he gonna do? He's like, well, Tucker Carlson said this or that.
So yeah, no, we definitely want to get Jim Black on the episode. We want to get our girlfriends and our fiance on the episode, just because we do mention them from time to time. So it'd be interesting to get their point of view on this.
I think we should get Abel.
Yeah, and we also want to. One thing that we definitely want to do going forward is promote local businesses, and not just like Walworth
like
County,
foodies, restauranteurs.
Yeah.
But like talk to like chefs from the area and like get their take on like Lake Geneva
food trends, culture.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And, like what got them started in food, and have similar conversations to this, but specifically like, I mean, a beer brewery opened up in Lake Geneva in the last
year.
Yeah. And it'd be interesting to go talk to them and be like...
There's one in Elkhorn as well.
Yeah, be like, what's your process? What do you do? And even if we don't do like a 2-hour podcast, just like, it'd be interesting to talk to them for like an hour and just kind of like highlight their spot and just say like, hey, or even some of the small plots that we go to, and just recommend those. It'd be kind of cool. And use this platform for good and not just for, adultery
for vice building.
Kind of getting there.
Yeah, slowly. But no, man, it's been fun. Well, anything else, Anthony?
Any plugs?
You
got any pluggables, man?
Anything? We'll
anywhere people should follow you, check out any work that you might have online or anything like that.
His Instagram is in the description down below. At is it pronounced Surly or Shirley Boy?
Surly Boy.
At Surly Boy in the description down below.
Did you get that nickname in the military?
No, I just came up with that out of nowhere. Surly means dead yeast.
Oh.
I thought it was kind of cool. Dead yeast boy.
Yeah, it sounds like a fun word to say. Yeah.
Well, I'm never going to look at this name again. Dead yeast boy. Okay. Any closing statements? Try Albarinos. Drink more Albarinos. Definitely mine. Juan, closing statement.
I want to try Amaronis again. Jorge just reminded me that they exist, and they're like, if I remember them correctly, they're pretty like dark, almost dark chocolate tasting. Correct? Would you say that, Anthony? So I'm just rediscovered them again, so I'm gonna jump back in there. So maybe jump into Amarone if you're into those flavors.
Jay,
people stay motivated, stay happy.
Beautiful. I like the positivity.
Thank you, Gary V.
So
don't talk shit about Gary V. He gets you pumped.
Anthony, once again, thank you so much for joining us. Megan's store is in the description. You will be in the description. And a closing statement.
Try new things in wine. Don't stick to the staples.
Beautiful. I like it. So thank you again for another episode and joining us. And follow us on Instagram, follow us on Facebook, and we'll see you next week.
Be tuned for our next big guest, though.
Stay tuned.
We're going to have big guests, guys.